Unity and horror have a mixed relationship. For every dark wood, there's 1,000 resident fears.
I know the way to the lab. We have to reach there fast.
But every now and then, a gem drops. And in the case of today's video, I'm talking about In Sound Mind, which is quite possibly the best Unity horror game I've ever played and is, in my opinion, massively underrated in the horror sphere. It was developed by We Create Stuff, who you might recognise for their work on Nightmare House 2, a small-scale horror mod for Half-Life. One of many that released around the 2010s. Launching to instant fanfare and managing to reach the mainstream with the likes of PewDiePie bringing their talent to the spotlight.
Nope. This game has nope written all over it.
Armed with little more than an axe, we explore the building where progressively nightmares unfold. Starting as traditional survival horror, midway through there's a sudden change to a more fear-esque experience, gunning down monsters in a secret research base with a trained squad of killers.
Now we're talking.
Spooky demon girl and all. It was an introduction to horror on a smaller scale, and the point I'm making here is how little experience We Create Stuff have. In Sound Mind was their first full release, their first game that wasn't a source modification, and in that regard, what they created is truly impressive. So without any further ado, let's begin our spiral into a world in ruin.
They say curiosity killed the cat. I killed the cat. Curiosity only brought her to me.
The game has an abrupt start, showing us an abandoned town with its streets flooded. And after flying through this depressive landscape, we arrive in a dingy basement with rumbles echoing in the distance.
How did I get down here?
We have no idea who or where we are, but it's a brilliant opening that establishes instant intrigue. What's happened to the world outside? Is it an apocalypse, a natural disaster, or something else entirely? All we know is that we're surrounded. Whatever the case, we still have a basement to escape, so we start making our way out, heading down a long hallway and coming face to face with a locked door.
It's locked.
The hall to the right is dark and spooky. Head in there and we can't see shit.
It's too dark in here.
So we try the path to the left where we come across this barrel. It's leaking and its contents look psychedelic, a bright multicolored substance that somehow appeals to us if we inhale it.
Smells nice.
But stand there for too long, it hurts us. It's an intriguing find, but means nothing to us by this point, so we follow the hallway to discover a storeroom, and sat at the back on top a shelf, a light is shining out. Now in horror, one should never pass up a torch, but in our case specifically, we need it to search the dark room, so we clamber up the shelving and grab it. Spooky milestone achieved, our first flashlight.
This will come in handy.
It has a limited charge and runs on batteries, but the charge lasts for ages and batteries are scattered everywhere, so it was never frustrating. Just remember to turn it off while you're reading notes because it doesn't stop draining in the background. That screwed me a couple of times, and every time it happened, I felt like a disappointed dad in myself.
Boy.
Anyway, we've got our light source. So we hop down and start heading back when we notice something's different. There's a chair in the hallway with a note waiting for us, and more disturbingly, peeking around the corner, something's watching. Getting closer, it runs away, leaving only the note to investigate. We don't know what this thing is, but it knows us and it's watching. Pushing on, we grab a key from the maintenance room and head out to look around, quickly stumbling across this gas mask teasing us through bulletproof glass.
You're teasing me.
The door's locked and the room's covered in that same mysterious toxic liquid. There is a way inside though, a vent at the back. So I went to check around the side, only to find the staircase blocked by this cursed police tape. And despite being flimsier than my mental health, you need a knife to cut it.
Looks like it can be cut.
The only way out of this basement is the lift, but when we call it, the heap of shit breaks down, forcing us to grab a fuse from a nearby washing machine and slot it in, under the lift. Damn, that was close. I was almost an In Sound Mind sandwich.
You were almost a Jill sandwich.
Shut your mouth.
Entering the lift, only one button's available, so that's where we head. And reaching the first floor, we're presented with a long hallway. It's cluttered on all sides, and at the bottom, there's a window with a purple glowing hue. So cautiously, we approach. Ah, a dynamic title screen, truly an underappreciated art form. To the left, there's an office we can enter with a name engraved on the door, Desmond Wales, PhD. And stepping inside, we discover it's our office. This answers a couple of questions. First, our name's Desmond, and second, we're a psychologist. But before getting a chance to look around, our phone starts to ring.
Long have I waited for this moment, to watch as you scramble for your last breath, as you try to make sense of your reality and the gravity it carries.
Our stalker's finally made himself known. With a jovial, familiar tone, he's reveling in our confusion. One thing's clear, he's not our friend.
Ooh, I can't contain my excitement.
Hanging up, we can look around the office, but aside from an old tape player, there's nothing to find. So we wander back into the hallway, but this time the lift's gone, and in its place there's a glowing door, looking almost symbolistic of the afterlife. We open it and pass through, arriving mysteriously at our small flat. It's well kept and mostly empty, aside from some snackety snacks in the kitchen.
Delicious.
In the living room on a coffee table, we find a tape with our name on it. A tape that can be played back in our office. So we return, insert the tape, and press play. An action that appears to shift the entire room. It's as if the office is ascending to the sky. And finally, when it stops, another door. This time we land in a surreal landscape, a boardwalk in the ocean with a giant tape looming in the distance. This area is reminiscent of the Lighthouse multiverse from BioShock and just as confusing. Along the walkway we encounter multiple tapes, and listening to them, Desmond outlines a baseline of what's going on.
In an unexpected turn of events, it seems I'm the one who's losing my mind.
Spouts of insanity are affecting the people of Milton Haven. In a short while, multiple of Desmond's patients have lost their minds and taken their life.
My patients were dropping like flies, dying.
This area is essentially an interactive lore establisher. As well as having notes spread throughout the game, here the storyline is condensed into a more linear path, and after hearing the last tape, we pass through another door and arrive in our office, except now the lights are on and safe space music is playing. The office serves as a base of operations throughout the game. We'll be coming back here frequently, and this time we're not alone. We have a little companion, our cat, Tonya.
Tanya? How? I mean, hi. I'm having a weird day. Everything okay with you?
The little legend even found the missing elevator button, giving us access to the first floor. Button in hand, we head back to the lift when the phone rings.
Well, there's an ink blot, there's a problem. Try and avoid your problems now.
Following the call, on cue, the game's first enemy appears, the Inkblot, a humanoid creature with a glowing light where its face should be, a beast representing the Rorschach test, often deployed by psychologists to see how patients perceive the world.
Well, that's all she wrote.
Anyway, with this encounter, we don't have a weapon yet. We're meant to hide and let him walk past us, which I would normally do, but in this case, I hid like a brainlet and got caught right away. Thankfully, the tried and true method of run like a little bitch still works too. On the first floor to the left, there's another door we can enter. But before that, it's Minecraft time. Following the instructions hidden in a storeroom down the hall, we find the components for a handgun, bring them to the basement, and get crafting. Our first firearm, an old 9mm. It doesn't offer much firepower, but hey, at least we skipped to the good stuff. No running around with a metal pipe for 3 hours. Returning to the first floor and heading through the glowing door, we enter another apartment, but this time it belongs to Virginia Rule, one of Desmond's previous patients who tragically took her own life. The house is a crime scene, with glass scattered all over the floor. Stepping into the bedroom, the room's glowing red from a neon sign out the window, and on her dresser we find a note and a second tape. Tape in hand, we go to return to our player, but before that, we have to entertain another phone call.
I have a feeling, a hunch if you will, that looking into your patient's death will result in a similar fate. Try not to shoot yourself with that pistol you found. Well, that would be quite funny.
Clearly, he doesn't want us progressing. Not only that, but he's able to physically alter our world to some degree. Here, for example, he's blocking our path to try and stop us. But thankfully, we have a shiny new piece to help clear the way. But it's an ambush from the rubble and ink blot charges, giving us another chance to practice our aim. In the office, we insert the tape and ascend once more. Emerging onto a crumbling car park, once again we find a path scattered with recordings, except this time it's Desmond counseling Virginia, who has a bizarre concern.
It's not fair. I've been getting food and stuff from Eden's Grove for like my whole life. They expect me to just be okay with them ruining this town and forcing me to shop at their place?
She's angry that her favourite store is closing. She'll have to travel further to get her weekly shop, and this enrages her.
I can't get my food at Homa-Mart. I won't.
The irrationality of her response would imply she suffers from some social or anxiety disorder. People with these conditions often find comfort in routine, and any changes to that can be extremely disturbing.
What other options do we have? Perhaps outside of Milton Haven?
No, that's even further outside where I feel safe.
Whatever the case, Desmond eventually talks her into taking baby steps towards overcoming her fears, recommending she try a trip to the new store, Homa-Mart, when she feels up to the challenge. Tapes consumed, we parkour across cars and trucks before passing through another door, and this time we're inside Homa-Mart. This is where the game really opens up, with deeper exploration, more enemies to fight, and something sinister lurking in the shadows. But we were brought here for a reason, so we head deeper into the store when our progress is blocked by a set of automated doors. But when we turn to leave, they open. It's not proximity that's closing them, but rather facial recognition. If we walk backwards hiding our face, we can pass through. Now we're in the main area and able to start our investigation proper when from across the shop floor we get our first look at this chapter's main baddie. A ghostly figure that disappears into the ground, an event almost too quick to register. This creature's called the Watcher, and despite knowing we're here, for now, it's gone. Pushing forward, we walk into the next section, where we pass a series of mannequins with deformed faces, and don't you just know it, they move around when we're not looking, changing positions and moving closer every time. It's a classic weeping angel scenario. But hey, listen, they can walk their dusty asses up and down the shop all day long, provided they don't cause me any problems. Eventually, we reach an aisle with a freestanding ornate mirror taking center stage. Approaching and peeking in, we get an expected surprise. The Watcher is not happy and she's done gone smashed the mirror, which is lucky for us though, because through the creature's rage, we found a powerful new tool, a broken shard of glass.
Sharp as a knife.
Not only a useful weapon and a tool to cut the dumbass police tape, fuck you, but through the shard's reflection we can see hidden messages, all of which add lore and context to the areas we explore, usually from the perspective of the victim in question. And the fun doesn't stop there, if you can call trauma fun. It also highlights important collectibles in the area, making exploration a hell of a lot easier. Never before has a shard of glass been so versatile. Anyway, the goal of this chapter is smashing the 4 remaining mirrors spread across the various sections of the store. To do this, we need to enrage the Watcher, something we could achieve simply by looking at her. The ghost will roam the halls at random from this point, attacking us on sight, and the only way to defend ourselves is with the glass shard. No, not by cutting the bitch, but by turning around and looking over our shoulder. A process that forces the Watcher to look at her own reflection and run away in fear. It's a slightly clunky process initially. Our first instinct isn't usually to turn our back on a charging enemy, but once you've done it a few times, her presence becomes easily manageable. After we've smashed the first mirror, we get a key to the West Wing, a staff section that's accessed behind the tills, which actually serve as their own mini-puzzle, with each till requiring a certain value to be scanned before they open. Opening a till rewards the player with a coin used to access various secrets throughout the level. A personal favourite of mine is using it on a photo booth near the entrance to get this lovely selfie.
Wait, what?
Now, aside from being straight adorable, it's also the first real look we've had at the goofy fella himself, and that boy is dripped out. Looking behind us, as the photo suggests, we're not treated to a scare, but rather a collectible pill. One that will upgrade our various stats if we collect enough, from our sprint duration to our stealth capabilities. And while they don't change the game very much, it's still nice to have something to collect, which is an aspect this game has down tight. Exploration is super rewarding. Whether it's a hidden scare very few will ever see, or some funny insult from our suited stalker. I never felt cheated for taking the time to look around, which for me is a great motivation to keep playing. I think that's why I love FromSoft games so much. If there's somewhere to go, it's usually worth heading there because you'll find a weapon or a piece of lore that rewards your curiosity.
I am the one who knocks.
Sure, here the upgrade pills aren't game changing, but really it's a testament to the game's writing, because the jokes and extra world building alone were enough to keep me looking through every tunnel and behind every rock. Like the time I stopped to read a plaque near a lighthouse and the game just stopped talking about the lighthouse and instead insulted me for my needless curiosity. The game doesn't give a fuck in the best possible way.
Your mother and I, we just wanted to call and tell you that, you're a disappointment, son.
Back in the staff block, we partake in some light exploration and find nothing of interest. There's a security room with a safe, but to get the code we need to look through the CCTV system, which is currently powered down. There's a canteen with a staff changing room, but access is blocked by a broken vending machine. Each area either has too much electricity or not enough. The duality of power. At the other end, there are two doors. One's locked by a punch card, and according to the note we find, this card is stored in Dave's locker, which is blocked by the electricity. Thankfully, the other door leads to a maintenance room, where we can balance the loads of power to power up or power down different areas. Using this, we can turn off the power to the canteen and power up the CCTV system, but in doing so, we plunge the hallway into darkness. Checking the CCTV, we're able to look at 4 different aisles, with each number representing a part of the safe's code, 4152. Opening the safe, we get a boatload of upgrade pills and pop them like a Marvel superstar. But the important part here is grabbing the punch card. So we head into the changing room, reach the locker, and find ourselves at a dead end. It's locked, and we have no idea where to find the key. That is, until we turn around. Now, historically, these guys are bad news, but thankfully our expectation is subverted. They're here to help, handing us a key to the locker. Hell, if you manage to grab a sticky note from the canteen, you can even give them cute little smiley faces. Look how cute he is, just chilling, watching our progress, giving a little thumbs up.
Keep on keeping on.
They'll continue to help us throughout this area and even make a few surprise cameos later, but overall, they're great. And again, they display the strange but welcome sense of humor that makes this game special. In terms of what they represent within the game, well, that's a very good question. They're clearly here to help, with their name tags implying they were once staff at Homomart. So maybe they're just here to help out the kind patrons of the store. I mean, who doesn't love working with the general public? It's worth noting, however, that most of their faces are destroyed or brutalized, and using a sticky note, we can hide their scary appearance and cover it with a happy mask, a theme worth noting as we move forward. Heading back to the punch card, in the darkness ahead, we see 2 lights moving in our direction, more enemy ink blots, and with the hallway light turned off, we're in trouble because you can't equip your gun and flashlight at the same time, so all we can see is the enemy's light dashing towards us at supernatural speed. Thank God the enemies have a giant "here's my head" LED, or sections like this would have been a nightmare. Enemies dispatched, we enter another maintenance room with a breakable vent high up on a ledge, as pointed out by our new mannequin friend. He even suggests we use one of the transformers to hop on up, but trouble is, we can't reach that high. Well, worry not, dear friend. Old Manny has our back, offering a helping hand to get on top the box. Even when we smash the vent, if we look back, he's just stood there waving us on. They're the unsung heroes of this tale. In the vent, we make our way through the tight metal frame, all the while expecting something nasty to pounce at us. But there never was. Or maybe there was, just for a second. Reaching the end, we drop into the electrics department, landing on a pedestal with a series of cameras pointing at us. Cameras that only record when we're not looking, almost like we're being judged behind our backs. Of course, being rational people, we calmly let the cameras do what they gotta do. There's another mirror here, but no ghost girl, and the way out is completely blocked, but by grabbing a fuse and following the cables to the back, we're able to power this section up, causing the nearby TVs to flick into life and stare at us. Walking back, we find a new note waiting for us on a chair. It's about Virginia, remarking on how everyone used to stare at her face and she hated it. This would lead us to believe she was severely disfigured in some way, which might explain why she never wanted to leave the house. Everyone would stare at her disfigurement and she hated it. What becomes clear by this point is that the Watcher monster is a physical representation of Virginia's more extreme emotions. It becomes enraged if we look at it, and it can't stand to see its own reflection. Following the TVs, we enter a small square space with a giant TV at the center that flicks to life, revealing Virginia. Each TV surrounding us has a still image of an eye, each one looking in a different direction, and interacting with them causes their gaze to change direction. It's another puzzle. This time we have to enact Virginia's worst fear, forcing all eyes to look at her, something that progressively upsets her TV image. And eventually we change the last TV, bringing this situation to a head. The TV explodes, revealing the Watcher's ghost, who instantly begins to chase us down, allowing us to hide behind the next mirror and smash it to pieces. There's only one mirror left, and passing through the TV wreck, we find ourselves opposite a doll's house. It looks like a normal home, that is, besides the bathroom, which depicts a bloody scene, with a fallen cabinet and blood leaking down the side. Each room contains a slot where a missing item can be placed, and after reading a note beside it, we learn that there are 4 dolls to find and return to their rightful places, which according to the note, places the wife in the kitchen. I am shaking and crying right now. Did watching Barbie teach us nothing? Using our newfound fuse, we're able to access the last section of this store, the storage and delivery area. Stepping into the hall and looking to our left, we immediately find the first doll, the brother in a trolley. Well, that sure was easy. It appears he has other plans. Chasing after it, we end up in the trolley storeroom, where a whole bunch of them go apeshit and start throwing themselves around in a tantrum, like a less aggressive version of the wheelchairs from The Room. Tracking down the brother and grabbing him, we dash out of the room and get locked out for good. Yeah, you're not proving anything, asshole. I didn't want to go back in there anyway. To the left of this storeroom, it's a dead end, but it's worth checking out because there's a police report waiting on the table. It describes the events that shut down the store, which, as you might expect, was related to Virginia. As recommended in our therapy session, she did try to visit the store, but once there, feeling overwhelmed, she had a complete mental breakdown, locking herself in the bathroom, breaking the mirror, and in the end, taking her life. A sad end to a woman who was just trying to improve her life circumstances, a situation Desmond inadvertently put her in.
I understand, and believe that there is an opportunity here to work on our exercises.
The second doll's located inside this giant metal freezer. Passing the hanging meat and grabbing the doll, we turn to leave, but
Be cool.
our mysterious stalker shuts the door. We're trapped, and not only that, but the freezer's turning on. There's no way out. We're going to die, but wait. Looking out a broken vent, we see a mannequin in the doorway, and following the no looky looky rule, we play a game of peekaboo where the mannequin will get closer and closer until eventually it leans in the crack with a key to escape. Key in hand, we make a quick dash out. We find the father in the loading bay, and finally the daughter in the trash. If you couldn't tell, the dolls represent Virginia and her family. Even the places they're found represent her self-hatred, with the daughter being found in the trash where she feels she belongs. With that, we have all the dolls, something our stalker is all too aware of.
Patient was encouraged to establish routine errands that would put her outside. No wonder her mother mother blames you.
Also, this dude is just trolling by this point, creeping around like a comic book villain. It's hard to know what to make of him or his motives. Returning to the dollhouse, we place the 4 family members in the correct locations, and once we've done so, the house opens, revealing a tunnel leading to the toy section, along with a note that finally explains how Virginia disfigured herself. It was a childhood tragedy. While climbing into her mother's makeup cabinet, the unit fell and shattered on top of Virginia, disfiguring her face, a bloody scene we recreated in the dollhouse. Passing through this psychedelic tunnel of bright spots and twisted fabrics, we arrive in the half-finished toy area, a maze of covered objects filled with collectible letter cubes. We also stumble across this robot, which, I mean, is that a reference to PT? Is everything a reference to PT? At the back, we find the final mirror, but there's another puzzle to solve. Inside the reflection, we see the cubes spelling out Data, which at first you might think is an anagram for death, but if you try that,
Creepy, but nothing happened.
no joy. Turns out it's not an anagram, it's backwards. Reflected like all words in a mirror are. The real word is hatred, an emotion that's plagued Virginia her whole life. Cubes in place, we summon the Watcher one last time and break the final mirror, trapping her spirit, who's now surrounded by multiple mannequins looking at her exposed face before she vanishes. Walking away, we can hear crying in the distance, and tracking it down, we find the Watcher curled on the floor, breaking down. Approaching, we do our best to console the spirit, who appears to finally be finding some level of peace.
You can rest now.
Spirit put to rest, Desmond concludes that this case isn't over.
I don't think Virginia would be capable of doing something like this without some sort of outside influence.
Claiming that despite her struggles, her behavior was too extreme, too out of character, that she couldn't have done this herself.
I promise you, Miss Rule, I'll get to the bottom of this.
He seems to think that some external force is to blame, that there's more mystery to uncover. Fuck it, I'm itching to agree. So we pass through the tunnel once again, and with the aid of another glowing door, we leave Homer Mart for good. This time, instead of returning to our office, we follow the same trail through the car park, except this time, we get a more detailed account of what led to Virginia's various mental conditions.
We can talk about the scars. My face.
It turns out she was a child beauty pageant queen, a life forced on her by her mother. She was dragged across the country against her will, winning contest after contest, something her mother loved, but she loathed.
When I was a kid, my mom, she used to sign me up for like Little Miss whatever the hell.
Not only did this pressure create extreme anxiety for the young child, but she was on course for another disaster, the bathroom incident that left her seriously disfigured.
I don't know, I lost my balance and I grabbed the mirror cabinet and the whole thing just fell apart.
After this event, she not only suffered from the post-traumatic stress of disfigurement, but after a lifetime of pageantry, she'd been conditioned to hate imperfection. As a result, she grew up to despise herself and her appearance, hiding her face behind a mask and refusing to leave her home unless utterly necessary.
She's a monster and a liar. She told me I was still pretty. She said people wouldn't judge me. Guess what? They did.
It really is a tragic tale that begins in sadness and ends in sadness.
I hate her. I hate everyone.
Returning to our office, it's now a hub we can explore freely between tapes, and it's strangely cozy once you get used to the area. It's not like you're safe, there's still the odd scare, and monsters can even attack us at random. Yet in spite of this, I found the area really comfy to explore. It's a paradox in itself. Here we can revisit old tapes, explore previously unreachable areas with new tools, and even talk with our loving cat, Tonya.
Desmond, darling?
Who said that?
Why, I did, of course.
Yeah, the cat talks now. Don't question it, okay? Because they've got some advice for us.
You are going to die, Desmond, if you do not get to the bottom of all this madness.
To figure out what's going on, we need to explore more memories from our past patients. And yes, you can pet the cat, although she really doesn't give a shit.
Don't you have better things to do?
True and genuine cat behavior. Heading to the lobby, with our new blade, we can access the main reception area. Of course, the front door's locked shut, but we can explore the location and find lots of collectibles, like this here safe behind the reception, which nearly made me shit and vomit because I guessed the combination first time by pure fluke. When it asked what year it was, I had no idea, so I put my date of birth in for shits and giggles, and it was right. I couldn't believe it. That fact alone was worth making a video about. The lobby isn't the only space we can explore. Using the shard in the basement, we can access the toxic gas mask room, mantling across various containers to reach the table and grab the mask. When it's equipped, we can temporarily pass through toxic spills without taking any damage. The filter automatically recharges, but we can't equip a gun or flashlight when it's on, which means we're vulnerable and blind in dark spaces. Anyway, with our new gear, we head back to the lobby, pass through police tape, and head into a new apartment belonging to another deceased patient, Alan Shaw. This house appears lost in time. Its decor is old and wooden with little to no electronics. Each room lit with a gas lantern and an unpassable darkness hanging over multiple doorways. This is all in relation to Alan's multiple disorders. A diagnosed schizophrenic with a nightmare disorder and a phobia of the dark. A truly troubling combination. Grabbing Alan's tape, we return to our office, load it up, and pass into our second nightmare. This time, we begin by navigating a sea of sunken containers while Alan offloads his various disorders.
I've had these nightmares ever since I can remember. I've always had these horrific dreams I can't explain.
Unlike Virginia, Alan has seemingly embraced his darkness, almost reveling in it. Having struggled for so long, it's become an integral part of his life.
At some point, I just decided to live comfortably in this reality, maintaining a beacon of light over a sea of darkness. Alone and afraid.
Finishing his tape, we find ourselves on a dock just beneath a large cliffside. So we follow the beach along, where as always, we're being watched. A little way down the coast, we stumble across a shack that springs into action with a near blinding light irradiating from inside. A replacement bulb for the lighthouse, something we have to take to the very top and insert, but there's a problem. The lighthouse wants us dead, shattering the wooden shack and damaging Desmond if we're caught in its lethal gaze. It's like a giant cosmic game of red light, green light, but with a lighthouse, and you fucking die. In fact, it's basically just Squid Game.
Green light.
It's a simple mechanic, but effective. There were countless moments of pure anxiety where I ducked behind cover just in time while the rumbling beam engulfed the area. All of a sudden, car bonnets and small rocks become notable, important locations that could save your life. But as I said, the lighthouse is our salvation, so we follow the jagged path up the cliffside and head in its direction. This level starts and continues with a more open format than its predecessor and is a better level in nearly every aspect. It's not open world in a true sense, but multiple small locations you can stumble across, like this observation point, the visitor's center, or some lone wanderer's campsite, make you feel like you have a decent amount of freedom despite being on a fairly linear path. The forest itself is called Icarus Point in reference to the Greek legend of Icarus, who flew too close to the sun, melted his wax wings and fell to his death. A classic cautionary tale, something our stalker is giddy to point out.
In our story, you're going to bring the sun to Alan, and the both of you will burn.
Also, for clarity, this mysterious man is referred to as Agent Rainbow in various letters, so that's what we'll be calling him from this point. We still don't know what he wants, but it seems evident that he's pulling the strings here.
You think Icarus contemplated how weird a person he was?
Anyway, eventually we arrive at the road leading to the lighthouse. This journey's littered with various news clippings alluding to strange occurrences, not related to Alan, but the area as a whole, from bizarre sightings to frequent power outages. We have no idea what this amounts to, but it's here to establish that there's too much abnormal buzz for Alan and Virginia's situation to be isolated. Multiple people are reporting strange occurrences, and somehow it's all linked. Aside from those irregularities, we also uncover the fate that befell Alan. Remember that plaque I mentioned earlier, the one that insults us just for reading it? Well, after it gets bored of listing useless facts, it drops something interesting on us. Alan Shaw was burned alive by the government, which might be the case. He was killed when his home caught fire, another suspicious and seemingly unexplained death that Agent Rainbow attributes to the government. Reaching the top, the music stops dead. There's a sense of unease as we approach the grounds, like the game itself doesn't want us to push further. The front gate's locked, but there's a stack of boxes to our right we can use to mantle over, so putting our concerns aside, we jump into the front yard. It would seem Alan's spirit's finally revealed himself in the form of the Shade, a sunken spirit stuck in a never-ending whirlpool, one it will suck us into given half a chance. We've got to stay mobile to survive. Jumping on cars is no good because he sucks those up too. Bro's living in permanent hold or IO mode. The only safety we have is light. Alan's lifelong respite now saves us in turn. Hide under a beam, and despite the Shade's best efforts, it can't reach us. Alan's fear was the dark, and here his spirit appears almost trapped in never-ending darkness, and no matter what, he can't reach the light. It's a tormented existence, just like Virginia's spirit.
The door leading to the courtyard is locked.
Sadly, we can't stay here forever. The door leading inside the lighthouse is locked, which means we've got to venture out once more. Dashing to a nearby generator, grabbing its missing fuse, and restoring power, which grants us access to Alan's burnt down home. It's collapsed and charred. Very little survived the fire. It's a far cry from the cozy wooden space we explored moments ago. And interestingly, the police tape decided to take on board my unbreakable smoke idea. Now it's covered by an impassable darkness, and we need another tool to get through. God damn it. This means we're at a dead end. There's no way out and we can't progress. But before panic sets in, we hear glass crunch beneath our feet. Of course, our old ally, Reflections. Equipping the shard and looking around, we see the dark space illuminate with various scribbles, most of which point to an empty space behind us, but looking with our shard, it reveals a hidden object, an oil can. We can use this on various lamps scattered throughout the house to clear the darkness protecting the tape. This next section is very methodical. Clear some darkness, enter a new room, find the hidden canister, repeat. In each room, we find a letter from Alan shedding some light, pun intended, on his growing anxiety over an unknown incident that recently occurred. Some kind of crash. It was a big one, but there's nothing written about it in the newspapers. Only references to a small truck crash down the hill. Nothing on the scale Alan seems to be describing. Whatever it was he saw, it has him spooked. He's convinced that men in suits are coming for him, that monsters are closing in, peeking through the windows. So, in a state of delirium, to defend himself, he fires a flare gun into his wooden cabin to keep them away. Eventually, we reach the upper story of the house when the Shade crashes in, ready to gobble us up, literally pulling the floorboards beneath our feet into the void. Jumping across the remaining planks, we managed to reach a key hanging from the window, and with that, we've got access to the lighthouse. All that's left to do is jump over Whirly Boy and unlock the door.
The yard is locked.
Finally inside, and once again, we're stumped. The way up to the lighthouse is blocked by more darkness, except this time, there's no lamp to turn on. Thankfully, Agent Rainbow is on hand to guide our progress.
Alan did when he went down to that ship. But did it clear the way, or did it set his world aflame? I dare you to go down there and find out.
So, the crash in question was a ship, one that hit the coast just below the lighthouse. How did it crash and what relevance does it have to us? Well, there's only one way to find out, by heading down to investigate. A descent that's immediately obstructed when a hail of debris rains from above. It seems Alan doesn't want us reaching the crash site, throwing everything it has at us to throw us off course. Dodging these projectiles, we reach a boathouse that has a winch able to lower us to the coast. And after grabbing the missing crank, we begin lowering ourselves, slow and steady, when we're given an unexpected push.
Bon voyage!
The space we've landed in is a mess of toxic waters, docked ships, and enormous bones. And once we've gathered our bearings and explored the area a little, we pass through an open cargo container and reach our goal. A large cargo ship crashed on the shore. This was the source of Alan's troubles and a location he claims is swarming with monsters, which, based on our welcome, is not a false statement. Near the crash, there's a letter from a government official describing an unknown chemical leak originating from the ship's containers, and it only takes a short survey of the area to see what they were talking about. It's the same purple substance that's followed us from the start of the game. Clearly this toxin is related in some way to the delirium people have been facing.
Smells nice.
Climbing inside the ship via its anchor hatch, we arrive on deck where an unknown voice reaches out to us. This is new. We don't know who the woman is, but the voice is distorted, almost like we're hearing it through the lens of a broken radio with static distortion. I have no doubt this will lead to some god-awful mystery, but for now we put it aside and head deeper into the wreck, passing through a tunnel of containers, all of which are filled with the mysterious gas, and even if we wear our mask, we succumb to its influence. Leaving the container to view a surreal landscape we literally can't identify. Floating in a purple, dreamlike haze, we see the ship's contents floating in space, along with a large whale skeleton swimming overhead, passing directly over us and continuing on its journey. Following the path, we eventually reach a locked door with a comically large keyhole, resulting in another jumbled objective that we can only assume is finding the giant fucking key for the giant fucking hole. One that's waiting for us if we backtrack just a little, and the journey is well worth it, because we have another run-in with our mannequin friend.
Sammy, how you doing?
Inserting the key and passing through, we're back on the boat, where we can only summarize what just happened as a chemical-induced delirium. Although the weirdness doesn't end there, because we find ourselves teleported, not through space, rather through time. We're out at sea, just off the coast with the lighthouse guiding our way, illuminating the jagged coastline. And heading into the main cabin, another strange occurrence is unfolding, something you might see out of the corner of your eye and doubt your sanity. Shades are roaming the hall, remnants of the ship's crew before disaster struck, passively going about their duties unaware of the therapist watching them post-mortem. Making our way up another level and back onto the balcony, disaster strikes. As alluded to by the news clipping, the town's plunged into darkness by a power outage, shutting the lighthouse down and stranding the boat, which is moments away from colliding with the coast. Back inside, the Shades are in panic mode, running around as any crew would in their final moments, but there's only so long you can sail the treacherous seas blind. Eventually, the boat crashes. Now we know how the boat ended up here, but there are still more unanswered questions. Why was this unscheduled boat lurking in the ocean, and what exactly is the chemical they were trying to deliver? But before we have time to think about it, we get another phone call.
You're flying too close to the sun, Desmond. Bad things happen to those who snoop.
Hanging up, the room fills with toxic gas. There's no way out unless we do something drastic, like taking the captain's flare gun and firing it into the flammable toxins. Well, that appears to have done the trick, and now we have a new tool, a flare gun, not only able to vaporize an ink blot, but also clear any impassable darkness. Like the darkness that was blocking our way inside the lighthouse. All we have to do is make our way back there. Something Agent Rainbow is more eager than ever to prevent, literally staging an ambush to stop us.
Get him!
I haven't really spoke about the combat in depth yet, and here's probably a good time for a quick anecdote, and it will be quick because the combat is extremely basic. Every enemy will run at you head on with little regard for its own life, and some will even sit there looking longingly into your eyes if you're just out of their reach. There's usually little challenge to it. The AI is not intelligent, but I mean, they don't have brains. They're literally ink blots, bruh. What the fuck you expecting? I'm glad the combat's still there though. I personally enjoy the risk of death in my horror games, along with an ability to fight back, shifting it from the walking simulator category to the elusive survival horror. As long as it's not broken or infuriating, I don't mind basic combat in a non-combat focused game. I highly recommend you play on the hardest difficulty though. I don't think that's always worth it in some horror games where higher difficulty can just make the experience a ball ache, but here it's necessary if you want to have any kind of fear during the monster encounters, which in this type of game, you probably should. One thing I do find disappointing though is the lack of variety in the ink blot appearance. We know each level is set within the respective patient's mind, so seeing the blots morph to better fit our patient's personalities or fears would have been a great touch. One that could have mixed up the encounters and added an extra psychological layer. Maybe something to consider if we ever get a sequel. Anyway, getting off the boat, we cross the toxic coast and use a flare gun to drop a platform leading up to the dock area. There's nothing especially interesting here. It's more of a padding location that adds another shade encounter before we reach the lighthouse. We need to fix a crane that allows us to jump over a blocked fence, and the whole section plays out very similar to the encounter in front of the lighthouse, but on a much larger scale. Oh, yeah, and we drop a crane on a warehouse. All in a day's work. But after returning multiple fuses and jumping over the fence, we're on the last leg of this race. The lighthouse is just ahead.
Bravo! It only took you an hour to find your way past a chain link fence.
Yeah, well, fuck you, mate. Returning to the lighthouse, we clear the darkness and explore the small dwellings, inside which there are 3 keys scattered throughout that unlock a Silent Hill 4 styled chained up door. While searching for these keys, if we check the bathroom, we find a note from Alan that claims he dreamt about visiting a new supermarket. One where a young lady with blood coming out her neck attacked him. Something he thought was a strange nightmare at the time, but we know to be a real occurrence at Homer Mart, which raises yet another question. How did a man that didn't know Virginia dream about her exact death?
Paranoia will eat you whole, won't it?
Loose ends wrapped up and keys gathered, we head into the base of the tower with a metal staircase leading up, looking almost religious in its implications, like Icarus heading towards the sun. Reaching the top, as you might expect, it's not a simple bulb exchange. The light's still hostile, ready to use its beam to burn us to a cinder. It's a bizarre fight. We're literally squaring off against a sentient, pissed off light bulb. It's certainly a first for me. The beam will spin in circles, meaning we have to loop around the platform to avoid its gaze. Really, this fight is as climactic as you want it to be, because if you just stand still, that shit looks lame as hell. But I mean, let's be honest, you can only really do so much to weaponize a light bulb. After firing enough rounds to tame the beast, we approach the glass and finally replace the light.
Time to shed some light. Of course, no power.
We're not quite there yet. All the energy expended on fighting us has burnt out the electrics. We need to head down to the basement and activate the emergency power system. A task that looks oh so inviting, with the basement being clawed to shit. But after plucking up the courage and heading down, we're instantly attacked by the Shade, who chases us through the tight basement maze, where we clear a blockage in the engine, get it spinning, and quickly rush back to flick a power switch, all the while avoiding that asshole. It's worth noting that you can buy yourself some space with the flare gun, fire it at the center of this beast, and it'll leave you alone for a short while, which is a lifesaver because it can be a really annoying distraction when you're trying to get around and it keeps sucking you sucking you down. Power back on, we ascend the spiral one last time, when water begins to fill the tower, raising higher, ready to drown us if we're not fast enough. Making it just in time, we finally finish our goal, offering some compassion for the spirit of Alan Shaw.
It's okay. The ship, the fire, those weren't your fault. Whatever this chemical is, it's gotta be the source.
With that, we're done. The light's restored and Alan's spirit's pacified. So we pass through another door where we hear the expanded version of Alan's sessions with Desmond.
I went down there. I wanted help. I wanted to make sure no one was hurt. But man, I don't know. There are monsters down there, Doc. I I swear.
Back in our office, we speak to Tonya and discover the situation outside is getting worse. The water's rising, covering more of the buildings. We're running out of time. Eventually, the water will drown us out.
Things are starting to become unstable around here. The ground is shaking and the water outside is rising.
But thankfully, we have another lead. Max Nygaard, a violent truck driver Desmond was seeing before he suddenly disappeared.
Alan mentioned that driver you were treating. Max Nygaard? Classic bag of cats, that guy.
Using the flare gun, we clear the darkness and enter his home. It's a depressing house with booze and pizza covering every sparsely decorated corner. It's a depressing single-dad apartment, a sad and all too common occurrence for men in this situation. Naturally, he's angry about everything, but through the shard's reflection, we can reveal his rage plastered on every surface. It really gives you a sense of his desperation as he tries to deal with all the punches life's throwing at him. And in the bedroom, after fucking up the punch bag, we grab Max's tape. But before heading back, there's an item we need to grab near the lobby. This here shotgun. Clearing the darkness with our flare gun, it drops into the basement where we can take the lift down and pick her up. Finally, a new weapon, packing a hell of a punch and offering some decent crowd control. The ink blots weren't a crazy challenge up to this point, but now we're pulling up to the next world looking like Doom Guy. Anyway, it's time we hear Max's story. So we head upstairs and we insert his tape. This chapter begins on a railroad with a dusty orange hue and country-style guitar twanging as we approach the old factory Max worked for. Following this track up, we arrive at the front gate. It's locked shut and a few enemies are patrolling. A perfect opportunity to test our new boomstick. Destroying the gate and walking through, the first area we explore is a small train yard with a rotating platform along with another large door blocking our way. Now, as annoying as the blockages are, the many locked gates of this level serve a purpose, one we'll discuss in just a second. First, we have a call waiting for us.
He's waiting at the end of the tracks, and he's dying to help you.
Apparently Max is waiting for us at the end of the train track. All we have to do is keep following it. And looking around, next to the phone, there's a note from the site's manager, in which he complains about a worker who stormed onto the work site, driving his truck through the front gate and causing a commotion that nearly messed up their operations. But why the anger and what exactly happened to him? Spoiler alert, he was Bobby Schmurdered. Anyway, this rampage caused mayors to reinforce the factory's gates. So if we want to get through them, we need to ram it with this here tram. Problem is, it can't reach the gate. Its front's all stumpy and lackluster, symbolic of course to my love life. So we need to attach a ram. One we can find in a storage warehouse at the back of the tracks, but when we open the shutter, a new monster emerges. A large, brutish version of the ink blot, able to eat our bullets like a crab with its own babies, just munching that shit up. Aside from regular punches, he can also slam his fists into the ground, which means the usual tactic of hiding up on a crate is out of the question. These guys are dangerous and need to be prioritized whenever encountered. Also, it's probably not a coincidence that the stronger, more aggressive ink blots first appear when we're interacting with Max's psyche, a man renowned for his aggression, almost like it's a manifestation of his viciousness. Anyway, loading the drill onto the tram, we start pushing her out when a few enemies spawn near the gate. This proves one irrefutable fact. These motherfuckers are not smart, because that puts them right in the way of our newly formed ram. With our path cleared, we head through a collection of train carts, and as I live and breathe, there's another bastard in locked gate. Locks, pacing video games since fucking Mystery House, I don't know. Searching for a way around, we pass through an electrical grid, hop over a series of pipes, before eventually climbing over some boxes and bypassing the gate. Moving forward, as we approach the tunnel in question, things don't look good. There's multiple signs warning us off in almost comical fashion. There's even a note attached to the barricade that really hammers the situation home. Stay out of the tunnel. You should definitely go in the tunnel. It doesn't inspire further exploration, and we know from previous encounters that whatever form Max is going to take, it likely won't be in our favor. But hey, in for a penny, in for a pound. Breaking the barriers, we step into the dark tunnel and follow the track, ducking and jumping through multiple barricades before getting our first look at Max. a giant mechanized bullhead charging straight at us. Dashing out, we avoid the various obstacles, which have now become a death trap, and once out in the open, the bull will chase us relentlessly, eventually breaking through the locked gate and trashing the train yard. The fact that Max's demon is represented through this bullhead makes perfect sense. It's literally a raging bull, a symbol of anger, rage, power, and fighting spirit. Not only that, but the engine powering it all, it represents the car he used to break into the complex before his death. All this presents itself as a deadly foe for us to avoid. Not only can it charge at us, but it can also spray a deadly steam if we're hiding just out of reach. Meaning there's little maneuverability if he's able to track us down. The beast can be temporarily disabled by shooting its eyes, or rather its headlamps out. It only lasts for a few moments though, so for the most part it's not worth the ammo it takes. Instead, we head into the factory and try riding a lift to the first floor, only for it to collapse on us. Turns out the circuits will bust up and requires a more powerful electric chip so we can reach the top floor. Taking this screwdriver and newly acquired level 1 chip, we're able to pass through a large electrical grid, where after mantling over a high voltage jungle gym, we can grab a higher voltage chip, kill a large wave of enemies, and return to fix the lift. There is more to this section than that. I am summarizing greatly, but it's nothing of note. Fun section for gameplay, poor section for essay.
The deeper you go, the darker it gets. Playing electrician won't change that.
Reaching the first floor, we enter a long hallway, one that appears without end, lined on each side with thick metal pipes. Pushing forward, we arrive in what looks like a control room, with a note set on the main desk describing a new experimental drug. This is our new objective, gathering 3 ingredients spread throughout the factory to create this mysterious lore pill. We don't know what it does, but it appears exotic, with each ingredient sounding like a sex position in Morrowind. Recordia, Ricus, Bo Lepo, fucking Star Wars merchandise sounding shit. The first component is found almost right away in a freezer down the hall, glowing bright blue and looking like a substance we really shouldn't be handling without protective gear. We're gonna catch that Ricus Dickus. The second ingredient is hidden upstairs in an office safe, next to a note of termination for Max. According to this, while on a delivery job, Max was involved in a small collision, causing the contents of his truck to spill out on the road. This is likely the same crash mentioned in the papers we found around Icarus Point, and despite this being his only mistake in 20 years of driving, he was fired on the spot, and having lost everything, his wife and child included, this was the last straw. Demanding answers, he charged into the facility, which is the last anyone ever heard of him. In any case, we don't have a clue what the safe's code is, but looking around, the static voice reaches out again, except this time, she makes a physical appearance.
The answer was always there, written on the wall.
Disembodied no more, appearing for a flash as a hunched woman in a white dress, electric, contorted, and almost angelic, with radio wave wings spanning either side. Taking her advice, we look in the Shard's reflection and find the safe's code scribbled on the wall. We don't know what this person wants, but unlike Agent Rainbow, they're clearly here to help. There's also a locked lab in this area, but to open it, we need the chip that's currently powering the lift, something we can't bring upstairs yet, but it's an important optional space, offering secrets we'll want to uncover, so we'll be returning to it later. The final ingredient's located downstairs in the loading bay, locked in a special case that can only be opened by delivering it to a purpose-built opening room at the back of the warehouse, which wins the award for the most moronic workflow ever. The conveyor belts are a maze of twists and turns, with different platforms Desmond can lower to alter the suitcase's direction, which is all fine and dandy, except the bulls broke into the area, turning the many rows into a deadly maze. It's easy to parallel this situation with Theseus facing the Minotaur in the labyrinth, which wouldn't be the first time the game's made a reference to Greek mythology. In fact, a lot of the game's design is influenced by Greek legends. The Watcher is comparable to Medusa, a beast we defeat by showing her own reflection. Icarus Point is literally named after its Greek counterpart, and even the lighthouse could symbolize forbidden knowledge, as we saw demonstrated in Robert Eggers' Lighthouse movie. The Greek setting within a horror game isn't something that's utilized very often. It's usually placed within action settings like God of War or Immortals Phoenix Rising. Do people remember Immortals? Anyway, the point I'm making is that before it was all actioned up, the stories of ancient Greece were pretty disturbing at times. So seeing more horror games go down this cosmic Greek route would be more than welcome. But back to the belt puzzle, it was kind of disappointing. The first time I played this section, through sheer panic and confusion, it felt very high stakes. I thought I had to think about the route and pull the correct barriers at the right times. But it's a farce. It moves super slow and you can activate all the redirect barriers ahead of time. So in hindsight, this entire section was a nothing sandwich. It quenched my hunger, but it had no substance. Having a more puzzle-orientated approach to this area would really amp it up. Maybe having some barriers remove others, or having them on a timer before moving back out of the way. This would have created a true sense of pressure instead of just waiting at the back of the room for our package to arrive. Once delivered, we used a special suitcase opening device to crack the case and grab the final ingredient. Taking all 3 items and placing them in a special machine on the first floor, like magic, we've just created the lore pill. So what exactly is it? Well, reading the documentation throughout the area, we learned that it was designed as a commercial pill to control and guide livestock, which based on the company's shady behavior could be a metaphor for population control. Or alternatively, considering it reacts explosively with the purple chemical, maybe they were secretly designing a preventive measure to stop this chemical from leaking again, as we saw with the boat crash. Something to clean up their mess, so to speak. Whatever the case, on our journey to the loading bay, we managed to open a locked door, giving us access to the first floor without using the lift, which means we can grab the extra chip and use all 3 to open the lab upstairs, where we get another vision.
The radio man from the war. A connection. Radio wave. Brain waves. Rainbow could be possible.
Visions and upgrade pills aside, there's another letter from the executives of Mayors which finally sheds some light on the purple chemical. It's an experimental drug, one that coincidentally has the exact same name as the skeletal man that's been pursuing us, Agent Rainbow. It's being developed by Mayor as a fear-inducing toxin, one they hoped would end wars as an alternative to traditional firepower. A plot that's almost identical to Jacob's Ladder, which as we all know was a huge inspiration for Silent Hill.
Maybe the demons are real.
However, in this case, through a series of disasters, it leaked to the public on multiple occasions, causing those exposed to experience delirium and, in the case of our patients, take their lives. They were already vulnerable, and with the push of this experimental drug, they went over the edge. This revelation might even shed some light on our stalker. Perhaps he represents the government and their ever-watching Big Brother eye. This is something I love about the game. Each tape recontextualizes the knowledge we already have. We slowly piece things together over time, changing what each character, item, and monster represents, and we're only getting started. Aside from blowing up puddles of Agent Rainbow, the pills can also do exactly what they say on the bottle. Lure creatures, from the average ink blot to the beast himself, something we utilize to clear a way out of the factory. A really interesting thing to note is that we can also eat these pills ourselves, which restores a small amount of health and grants us infinite sprint and a small speed boost for a short while, letting us run around in almost comical crackhead fashion. Now, I was suspicious about this at first. I thought maybe it was a trap, that if we took too many we'd die, or we'd lead to a bad ending where we were just sick all along. But sadly, no. You can eat them like Skittles and it makes no difference to the overall plot. Our next destination is just behind the factory, where we have to turn 3 valves to slowly drain the lake of its water. Question is, why are we wasting our time with such a strange task? What's at the bottom of the lake? Well, after turning the final valve, we see what we came here for. Max's Jeep crashed at the bottom of the lake. After bursting into the factory, enraged at having lost his job, either through foul play or from losing control of his truck, he crashed, landing at the bottom of the lake and drowning. It's a tragedy, but we don't have time to sympathize. We need to put this bull down for good, something we achieve by goading the beast into 4 unstable structures conveniently filled with boulders to damage him on collision.
I'm trying to help you.
After all 4 are broken, his engine is exposed, allowing us to throw multiple lore pills into the beast's core until its anger is quelled. And and once medicated, the bull drives over to the sunken car, and after attaching a winch, it helps us pull out the wreck. After this, the beast slumps to the ground, where we get one last emotional plea from Max.
It's okay. She will always be your daughter. You will always be her dad.
Flaws aside, in the end, all he really cared about was being a father to his daughter.
Your death won't be in vain. Thank you for leading me here.
Back in our office, there's a surprise change. A message is waiting on our answering machine, and from one of our patients, no less.
They're after me, and they might be coming after you too, just for seeing me. I'm sorry. Please contact me so we can figure this out. And don't drink from the tap.
It's the first contact we've had with the outside world, or a living being, since the start of the game. Unlike the others, Lucas doesn't appear to be dead. Not only that, but he's trying to get our attention. He seems to know what's going on, and if we can get a message to him, he might be able to help.
Guess we have to do this the hard way. Lucas had a cabin in the forest, didn't he?
Once again, the water's on the rise, this time breaching through the ground floor and covering the lobby with a layer of toxic water. Using the lore pill, we break into the final home, this time belonging to Lucas. It's a log cabin, off the grid and hidden, alluding to the conspiratorial personality Lucas has. There's even a note claiming that he served as a radio operator during his military service, a deployment he managed to survive despite the exceptionally low survival rate. The game never specifies exactly what war he was deployed to, but it's heavily implied to be Vietnam. No doubt his mind will be a welcome one to explore. So we grab the tape from his table, bring it back to our office, and one last time, we insert the tape. Listening to Lucas, he comes across as mild-mannered and, unlike the others, open to the process of therapy.
You're not the first therapist I've met with, but I sometimes find it difficult to open up.
His condition appears less severe than the previous patients, and not only that, but he's all too aware of the ongoing conspiracy.
Horrifying experiments, government conspiracies, and cover-ups.
Our destination this time, Elysium State Park, where Lucas worked as a groundskeeper during his sessions with Desmond. It's dark, wet, and more concerningly, something's lurking in the forest just ahead, knocking trees as its steps echo in the distance. We have no idea what's causing that, but considering it's able to knock trees with ease, it's big and it's strong. Following the path, the bridge heading deeper into the forest is locked with a gate hooked up to this electrical device, which means we're still missing this tape's unique tool.
It's emitting a faint hum.
Instead, we take an unmarked trail to the left, where we eventually stumble across a small wooden lodge. It's not any old house, it's Lucas's, which is the first time we found a patient's house within the tape world, or at least the first time we found one that's not completely burnt to a cinder. It's locked shut, but thankfully there's another way inside. So we clamber up and drop in through the attic. Looking around, the lodge is very different to the version we visited earlier. In the time since, it's become a shelter, fortified with tin foil to prevent any radio waves from entering the building. In the kitchen, we find what we're looking for, a bizarre radio gizmo custom made by Lucas that can disable or activate electric devices like the gate blocking our way.
It's custom made. Let's see what it can do.
Testing the new device on a nearby radio, rock music blares from the speakers. It won't stop, and worse still, it's drawing attention to us. Now, the creature knows where we're hiding. Shooting at us with explosive rounds, chunks of the building start blowing away. Given all the chaos, even if we try to peek out the window, we can't get a good look. It's pure chaos, like a soldier trying to survive an ambush in the jungle. Staying away from the windows, we ride out the attack, ducking behind whatever cover we can find and trying not to get our dome blown off. And after the shooter's had his fill, they leave just as fast as they arrived, with the building in tatters and our timbers thoroughly shivered. On the upside, with the windows torn to shreds, we're able to power up the generators using our new device and make it back outside. Tracking through the forest once again, we stumble across a collection of soldier helmets placed on top of rifles buried in the ground. An act of respect frequently done to honour fallen soldiers and offer a moment of prayer, but here it triggers a flashback to the war in which they fell. Out of nowhere, we're running through a battlefield, dodging explosions until we discover our goal, a giant concrete bunker. Stepping inside, we leave the war-torn reality, and after powering up the bunker's door, it asks for a 4-digit code, something we clearly don't have. And when we turn to leave, we're ambushed from above. This is Lucas's representation in the world, the Flash, which is more or less a daddy longlegs holding a giant explosive sniper, a snipey longlegs, if you will. In my opinion, he's a goofy goober looking kind of guy. Maybe it's his beta posture, but I just can't take him too seriously. Having said that, the moments where you try and sneak around him and you can hear him approach and see his giant sniper beam searching just above you, it can be incredibly tense. Anyway, we need a code for the bunker. One we'll apparently find at 4 towers spread throughout the area. We can try and guess the code, but there's a fat chance of that happening.
You're wasting your time, Desmond.
The first time that happened, I genuinely shit myself, even though he wasn't trying to be spooky. With our destination set, we make our way to the first tower, and en route, if we explore the forest, we can discover a hidden radio antenna, revealing more snippets from Lucas's therapy sessions.
War is hell. We were in the thick of it.
And there's a reason why Lucas is the only patient with an expanded backstory, because when his squad was deployed, they were patient 0 for a secret trial run of Agent Rainbow.
We thought maybe we got sprayed with one of those damn herbicides, but it turned out to be something far more mind-blowing.
After being subjected to the gas, Lucas and his squad lost their minds, seeing what they thought were monsters but were likely friendlies suffering from the same confusion. A disaster that ended with friendly fire and the death of Lucas's good friend.
So I shut it down. Then I woke up. I was back on the tree and my shadow was Wheeler.
After this, Lucas was discharged on the medical grounds, and returning home, he tried to warn people, but no one would listen.
At some point, the army got tired of me asking around, gave me a mental conditions discharge, and shipped my ass back home. I tried to make sense of it all, so I went and saw as many therapists as I could. Some chalked it all up to psychological trauma. Others tried to have me sent to the loony bin.
Returning to our quest for the bunker codes, the first tower's up at a water treatment plant, and the enemies are significantly ramped up here. But this is war, and war is constant hell, and this location genuinely reflects that at times. Eventually we reach the top of the water tower, and there's no clear sign what we should be doing until we look to the sky and see multiple stars gathered in a cluster, which again could be confusing without some creative thinking. It wants us to activate the stars with our radio device, resulting in a number ringing out.
5, 4.
It's a dot the dot game, following the numbers to draw out part of the code.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
The second tower is up on hill yonder. All we gotta do is cross this here bridge, and I sure do hope nothing happens. Well, oh shit. The bridge is out, and the Flash is hot on our tail, blasting us good and proper. So we have to take a cable car up, using the Flash's explosives to clear a path. I can't stress enough that this chase sequence is perfect and captures interactive tension in a way few games manage. The maze of railings is a rat race, measuring when to run and when to bunker down to try and avoid getting shot. Even when we call the tram, we have to sit there hiding behind this podium waiting for our escape to arrive while the Flash desperately tries to finish us off. When the tram does land and we make our way across, he's still shooting, shattering the windows as we hide in the corners, taking mild splash damage. Holding out until we're close enough to temporarily deactivate him. This gives us a moment's respite as we finish our ride, but once we get there, it's still not over. Chasing us up the hill, out of the tram and into a nearby car park, we rush to enter the visitor center, but we're screwed. The door's locked and there's nowhere else to hide. This is the end. Or not. He's out of ammo. Despite really wanting to finish us off, he can't. Instead, he storms off, grumbling like a spoiled child. Like I said, it's a phenomenal sequence, and what I love so much is that it's all in your hands. None of it's displayed in an uninteresting cutscene, it's all interactive. It is, as the game would describe it, frenetic. The second tower's just ahead, but the door is locked, so we head into the visitor center to look for a key when balloons start popping, causing the center to morph into another war zone. As well as bullets flying through the window, gas is filling the center, meaning we have to quickly navigate the building and turn the valve hidden in the bathroom before we die. If you've entered this room on low health, you could be in serious trouble, especially on your first playthrough when you have no idea where to find the valve and your health is just trickling down. It's really tense and panic inducing, and you just have to love that. Gas quelled, we take the new key, head up the tower and reveal another number.
4, 5, 6.
The third tower is on top of church, on the other side of the forest, and after battling our way across, we reach a hill up and it's a total war zone. To make matters worse, if you tried being a smartass and eating a lore pill to sprint past all the enemies into the church, well, you're shit out of luck, because it's locked until we beat all the monsters in the area, resulting in an unexpected, probably well-deserved ambush. Surviving them is just the beginning though, because once they're dispatched, a siren rings out. And in the distance, a nuclear bomb drops. In a flash, we're back to normal, with the doors to the church open. The world literally ended for a moment, and now we have to continue as normal.
After the crash, hearing voices affected on the radio.
Inside, we have to gather 4 coins, which are again related to Greek mythology and make the connection each monster has far more obvious. But something is lurking in the shadows here. More shades, except this time they're well aware of us and they're not happy about it. You can shoot them with a flare gun, but your best bet is avoiding them and quickly passing into the church tower to align the next number.
3, 4.
Jumping out the window and into the graveyard outside, we look around and make a surprising discovery. A grave. But it's not for a person, it's for a cat, and it's marked with a distinct collar.
Good kitty.
Tonya's been dead the entire time. A trauma Desmond appears to have forgot, but he doesn't have time to grieve.
Never mind this right now. Bigger fish to fry.
Leaving through the graveyard, the electric woman is back in force throughout this area. Turning on lights to clear the darkness and leading our way inside a crypt where she begins to unload extremely important information.
Rainbow's true potential lies in the collective unconscious.
Talking about the collective unconsciousness, something that won't make sense right now, but we'll come back to it in a moment.
Knowledge, experience, inherited.
All we know is that she's running out of patience. Like at one point, she literally skips a fuse gathering objective for us. Thank you, Electric Angel. God knows we've collected enough fuses. Taking a long lift to the top of the final radio tower, we gather the last piece of the code. And with that, it appears our friend is done for good. So we take the lift back down when, yet again, we're ambushed. Crashing to the ground, we run between the Flash's legs, down the hill, back to the bunker, and enter the code, finally opening the vault up. Searching the bunker, we discover multiple research rooms. It was, for some time, a top secret mayor's base where Agent Rainbow was first developed. It's also where the final pieces for the Electric Woman are revealed through a series of computer terminals in each room.
It is an extremely volatile and dangerous fear-based weapon.
But before that, we need to talk about a couple of files we found while exploring the factory that I left out for this revelation, where we learn about a researcher called Rosemary James. She was one of the main minds researching the law pill, a project that after years of research was going nowhere. They couldn't seem to get the product to work, which is where Rosemary had a revolutionary idea, integrating radio waves to help manipulate the law pill.
A connection. Radio brain waves.
Now, it's not clear exactly what's meant by this, but it's implied to have been a huge breakthrough that finally got the pill working, moving Rosemary up the line of command where she found herself working on a new top secret project, Agent Rainbow. But after moving to the bunker, things turned bad. The drug was quickly prototyped and it worked a charm, but there was another wholly unexpected side effect. Voices from another world were reaching Rosemary, appearing through a radio as static, distant voices. These were the voices of different people affected by Agent Rainbow. She was hearing them speak to her. Not only that, but she was able to experience their memories, to learn from their history.
The collective unconscious.
A hive mind able to work together, share knowledge, experience and collaborate on a scale never seen before. This would change humanity. And knowing the extent of what this collective mind could mean, she tried to cancel the project and halt further research, a decision that was quickly overturned.
Someone must have leaked our results to the higher-ups because they're suddenly very interested in what we've been doing here.
Now, in a state of desperation, she reached out to an outsider. She reached out to Lucas Cole, a drastic decision that didn't go unnoticed, because although it's never directly said, she was murdered for this act, something we can confirm by checking an unmarked grave near the church where we find her vinyl resting on top. This was one of the last puzzle pieces left to fall in place, and with it, we head up to the satellite to face the Flash and try and reach the real world Lucas. Taking the steps up, we're instantly under fire, forcing us to rush to the top and start calibrating the satellite. This is our last stand. If we manage to predict where he'll be for long enough to land the satellite there, we flip a switch and blast it with a powerful radio wave.
Are you in there? Do you read?
A process we repeat multiple times until the Flash is defeated, beaten down by radio waves, which his real-life counterpart spent so long trying to avoid. Defeated, we walk around the platform for a while and there's a moment of confusion where nothing happens. That is, until the Flash climbs on up to speak with us.
It's okay. You're not alone.
Having said its last words, it literally acts like a fucking Chad assassin and dives into the forest. Anyway, with that, we finish calibrating the satellite and finally, we fire our message into deep space.
This is Desmond Wales. Do you read?
Holy hell! How are you doing this? Are you okay?
I'm hanging in there, but I could use your help. Can you get to my office?
I read you loud and clear, brother. Help is on the way.
Plea delivered. All that's left to do is return to our office and wait.
Probably know who's calling.
I'm leaving you something by the entrance to your building. Consider it a parting gift.
Well, I suppose that makes sense. We've dealt with each patient's worst representations, but we still haven't settled a check with Agent Rainbow, who apparently has a gift waiting for us in the lobby. Okay, so when I said Lucas was the last tape, I lied. There's one last tape, and this time, it's for Agent Rainbow.
A tape?
An invitation.
Inserting his tape, the room begins to ascend as normal, but after landing at its destination, the door doesn't glow. Instead, it's our closet that beckons us. Undertones of homoeroticism. And stepping through, we get a scene so bizarre that I have no choice but to let it play out in full.
All eyes on me now, open wide. fatal case of deja vu. Sit on the edge, staring to the void. Maybe you're sane, or maybe just paranoid. I hear them. Oh, here comes the Savior, who can break these thoughts away from me. Oh, no more bad behavior. School my head on right from honorant feet.
It's beautiful. Your father would be proud.
Ready.
Scene set, we pass into the final world, a floating expanse of islands surrounded by barrels and clouds of Agent Rainbow.
Whoa.
Taking our first leap, we fly forward. Gravity is askew here, allowing us to jump between islands as we listen to Agent Rainbow revealing his grand plan.
I'm not some government agent. I'm your Agent Rainbow. I'm everything you don't want to be. Your fears, your guilt, your paranoia. Give it form.
Finally, we have an answer for the entity that is Agent Rainbow. He's little more than a representation of our own self-doubt, spawned from Desmond's exposure to Agent Rainbow and his insecurities over multiple patients dying under his care. All the calls, the obstacles and abuse, it was self-sabotage.
Virginia trusted you when she died because of it.
At the end of this path, as usual, there's a door waiting for us, but as we approach, Agent Rainbow has other ideas. Appearing as a giant, towering over us with evil glowing eyes, he's finally ready to end this, throwing explosive barrels from the sky and periodically slamming the tape. We can't damage him. Instead, we have to gather 4 tapes belonging to our patients, all the while Agent Rainbow mocks them for their flaws. And once we have the tapes, a massive islands crash beside us. And this is where the real fight begins, which strangely causes Desmond to laugh.
What's so funny?
I'm excited to finally kick your ass.
You see, the final boss fight, it's not what you'd expect. Desmond has already overcome his fears. He knows his self-worth. Instead, it's more of an optimistic fight back.
Even with a tough case like Max, progress was made. Change is possible.
The area is basically one long obstacle course, filled with enemies, toxic puddles, and references to the locations we traversed to get here. A tense mishmash of everything we've overcome to reach this point.
Talk all you want. You won't get to me anymore.
And at the end of each section, we find a cassette player relating to each patient and insert the corresponding tape where we take back control.
Virginia made an effort to change her narrative. I'm taking her lead.
Rewriting our destiny and offering praise for what people done right rather than dwelling on their failures. Each patient we praise hurts the giant beast. You can literally see his face crackle and breaking down with each recording.
Alan had the courage to face his fears. It's time I do the same.
Agent Rainbow isn't real. He's part of us. We couldn't directly fight him, and so instead we prove to ourselves that he doesn't deserve to dominate our life.
You know what I think? I think this isn't going the way you thought it would, and it's eating you up.
Plus, if we're being real, this is a way better conclusion than some cringe boss fight where we hit his hand every time he slams it down. The significantly lower gravity is a game changer in the last level. Aside from being great fun and a new aspect of movement to master, it also plays into what this tape represents. Desmond is literally overcoming what's burdened him the entire game. He's shedding the weight of self-hatred and freeing himself. He appears within this world, in a manner of speaking, weightless. Love that for us. But sadly, all good things must come to an end, and despite having a whale of a time, we conclude this bout with Lucas's tape.
Well, if Lucas taught me anything, it's that sometimes the voices in your head, they're wrong.
By this point, Agent Rainbow is ready to burst. His entire being is held together by threads and he's out of luck because there's a final tape and it's got his name on it.
I'm afraid our time is up. The next time you want to talk to me, make an appointment.
He was there from the very beginning, lurking around every corner and trying to break us down. But now we've conquered him. And to add insult to injury, his iconic fedora hat floats from the sky, landing near our exit. There's even an option to wear it, which, I mean, it is, after all, our hat. Through the door, we appear again on the ocean path from the start of the game. We've come full circle, but instead of hearing the story in past tense, we take control, approaching each tape and stating our plans moving forward rather than lamenting on the past.
Meyer and the government think they have autonomous control over us, that they can shove us around and we'll take it. They fail to realize that by pushing a bird out of its nest, you teach it to fly.
Ultimately concluding with Desmond vowing to fight back against the corrupt government and pharmaceutical entity.
I'm going on record. Meyer's gonna pay for what they've done. To Virginia, to Alan, to Max, Lucas, Rosemary, to Milton, to everyone. I am right. I am just. I am alive and I am in sound mind.
Back in our office, one last time, we hang up our hat. Then we speak to Tonya.
Here. I think you can handle what's in your locked room now. If you have any unfinished business, take care of it and meet me on the roof when you're ready.
What I hope you've gathered by this point is that the Office Hub isn't a real space. It's a representation of the collective unconscious, a space Desmond found himself after being drugged by Agent Rainbow. What should have been his end, a drug-induced catatonic state, was a safe haven. Without this unexpected ability, we would be dead, which is why the water is constantly rising. In our drugged state, we were running out of time.
Things are starting to become unstable around here.
Checking the bedroom, it's clouded with fog. There's a memory here Desmond doesn't want to remember. A mystery that's answered when we stumble across a letter from an as of yet unheard of woman, Magdalena, Desmond's ex-partner. It's not clear whether this was a wife or just a girlfriend, but what is clear is that she very recently left him. And shortly after this, while at rock bottom, Desmond made the mistake of purchasing a lily plant, a plant that is notoriously deadly to cats, inadvertently causing Tonya's death.
Tonya? How? I mean, hi.
This does present an interesting question though. Could Magdalena be the voice of Tonya?
I'm really proud of you, Desmond.
Maybe the voice and personality were that of his estranged lover as some kind of coping process. Both things he cared about, his cat and his partner, were there when he needed them.
It's not too late, you know, to make a change.
Regardless, Tonya is waiting for us on the roof, and with everything wrapped up, all that's left to do is say our goodbyes.
I'm sorry. It was my fault. I should have known.
You did your best. You loved me, and that's all I ever cared about.
Thank you, Tonya. For everything. You're a real cool cat.
Yeah. I know.
And that is the end. Tonya's gone, we're stuck in this other world, and Maya is still running rampant as the credits roll. But it ain't over yet. After the credits, there's one last conversation for us to hear.
Desmond, you're breathing. Yes. I heard you, man. I heard you in the back of my mind. My goodness, what did you do to this place? Judging by the package on the table, I guess they got to you before I did.
It's Lucas. Through the collective subconscious, he's heard our call and he's here to help, keeping us safe from Mayors and promising that when we're ready, we'll take the fight to them.
Rest. And when you feel better, we'll take the fight to them.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, really is the end.
Yeah, I know.
I really cannot hammer home how much of a sleeper hit this game was for me. A game I wouldn't have thought twice about if it weren't for people in my comments telling me how good it was. As I said, what I love so much about it is it keeps you guessing all the way through, constantly changing its themes, its structure and its rules right to the bitter end, jumping at a whim between humorous and sad and scary and action-packed, and I just couldn't get enough of it. Now, looking back on the game's main theme, mental illness, I know it's nothing revolutionary. They've been tackled expertly before before with the likes of Silent Hill, The Evil Within, or Cry of Fear. But I think what makes this game special is that it doesn't just portray the victims as simple mental health sufferers. It portrays complicated people suffering from a range of ailments, fighting back and trying their best. If it weren't for Agent Rainbow, they could very well have succeeded towards their journey of recovery. It even hits that sweet Silent Hill 2 niche of being an entirely different experience when you play it a second time. The monsters and locations take on a new meaning that begs the player to boot it up for a second round with a deeper understanding of what's going on.
How did I get down here?
All this contrasts beautifully against the game's unique and twisted sense of humor to make In Sound Mind one of the most enjoyable horror experiences I've had in years, and one I'll remember for a very long time. If this game looked up your street, I highly recommend you pick it up. They always do crazy cheap sales, and there were so many scares, funny moments, and just little intriguing parts of the game that I left out, so it's still well worth your time playing, even if you watched and enjoyed this video. Sorry if I look tired. October is a crazy busy month for me, and I want to be able to get the Deadly Premonition 2 video out as a Halloween special, so I had to wrap this video up quick. I edited the whole thing in 3 days. If that isn't worth a like and subscribe, I don't know what is. Follow me on Twitter if you want updates on the Deadly Premonition 2 video. Until that point, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.
All eyes on me now, open wide. You know what's wrong with you, a lethal case of deja vu. Sit on the edge, staring to the void. Maybe you're sane, or maybe just paranoid.